right, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone. We do have an ASL interpreter, and I'll be putting in occasionally in the chat. So if you do need interpretation, Sister Bilquis is here, and we will spotlight her if anybody requests. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We're having some difficulties with Zoom today, so please bear with us if it doesn't work right the first time. Inshallah. And okay. All right. Can you see my screen okay? Great. So we're with the American Muslim Community Foundation. Again, we're honored to have you here today. This will be a social impact accelerator. It's one of our educational webinars we do every month. Today we're doing bringing accessibility to our spaces, and we're honored to have Joohi Tahir, co-founder and ED of MUHSEN, with us. Today's agenda, very brief, a welcome and intro to AMCF and the Women's Giving Circle, information about our wonderful speaker, upcoming events, the presentation, and then Q&A. And again, thank you so much for attending. So a little bit about AMCF. Our vision is to lead sustainable and strategic Muslim philanthropy for today and future generations. Our mission is cultivating donor giving and diversifying funding to advance charitable causes. Our core values are sacred, strategic, sustainable, collaborative, diverse, inclusive, and integrity. In a nutshell, AMCF was founded in 2016. It's the only U.S. organization dedicated to American Muslim philanthropy. We have distributed over 25 million to 1,000 plus nonprofits in 9 years. And just this year in Ramadan, we distributed approximately $2 million from our donors and donor advice funds, mashallah. Currently, we manage approximately $9 million under assets. Thank you. Our core programs are for donors and nonprofits, including donor advice funds, giving circles, endowments, and leadership development. We do have a nonprofit resource center. We encourage you to check it out on our website, and you can also reach out to nonprofit engage at amuslimcf.org if you want to find out more information. We are the Muslim Women's Giving Circle that are hosting this event today. Our purpose, to harness the power of American Muslim women through collective giving, to combine and democratize our giving, to amplify women-focused nonprofits, support Muslim women in leadership, just like Joohi here today, and provide seamless donations to organizations chosen by our members. So how it works, you join as a member with a donation of $5 or more. You become a voting member with $35 a month or $420 a year. Members can then nominate one eligible organization for funding, with preference going to nonprofits serving or led by American Muslim women. Voting members determine the finalists and then the top 3 organizations that we funded in that year's cycle. What did we do? Well, over the past 6 years, we have collectively raised and distributed $41,000 to 6 nonprofits over 4 years. Last year, our 2024 Giving Circle Cycle grantees were the Muslim Legal Fund of America, Olive Community Services, and Pillars of Peace. Wonderful organizations. We encourage you to read more about them. Upcoming programs. Next week, we'll be having a member salon for our Giving Circle members, talking about work-life balance for Muslim women leaders. And if you know how to perfectly balance, please join and share your tips with everybody else. Our salons are really opportunities to network and get mentorship and being in a supportive environment. That's next May 29th, next Tuesday, or Thursday, sorry. And then next month, our next social impact accelerator will be the Power of Women's Giving with Agnes Chong, one of our leadership circle members. So we encourage you to save the date and register. And if you'd like to join us or for more information, join today on Grapevine at amuslimcf.org, Women's Giving Circle, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or suggestions. And then our welcome to Joohi Tahir, co-founder and ED of MUHSEN, for our topic, bringing accessibility to our spaces. an illustrious, never-ending bio. So just top highlights. After spending 20 years excelling in the corporate world, Joohi turned her talents to become a national advocate for Muslims with disabilities. She co-founded with Sheikh Omar Suleiman the Muslims Understanding and Helping Special Education Needs, or MUHSEN, and was appointed ED. The MUHSEN is a revolutionary nonprofit for which she helped plan and build the organizational programs and services, as well as everything else. With her own family being affected by disability, she has been outspoken over the past 18 years, specifically about the need for inclusion for her daughter who is on autism spectrum. As a leader of this organization, she advocates and markets the needs for which MUHSEN implements programs and services across North America. She has been a recipient of the NWA 2015 Inspiring Women's Award and Top 7 Muslim American Women to Celebrate in 2017. So mashallah, and many, many other accolades. So very honored to have her with us today. So I think, welcome. And now I'm going to switch over to, there we go. So I have Joohi's presentation, and now, inshallah, she will begin, and I'll be her assistant today, and I will slowly be going through the slides. So yay. Welcome, Joohi.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Lisa, thank you for getting us started. Again, I cannot say enough about AMCF. And I know this presentation is not specifically about them, but they are our gracious hosts. It is their event that they've invited me to be a part of. For those of you who don't know, Muslim philanthropy is a thing. Muslim donors are becoming more and more savvy and more organized. And for those of us in the nonprofit industry, we couldn't be more grateful. Organizations like AMCF provide a platform for people to have their wealth managed and also to do with it, what they need to do wisely and in an informed way. We ourselves at MUHSEN have been the recipients of funding from donors that have donor advised funds with AMCF. And so I encourage everyone to look into this. Even if you have a little bit of extra money that you would like to set aside and have it do good, please do contact them. And they did not ask me to say this, and this is not a sponsored pitch in any way, but I just wanted to start with that. And it's worth looking into if you've never heard of them, or if you've not been, and I'm sure most people have, or if you've not been involved. You heard the formal bio, and really, I really like to start out with, getting to know the audience. And this is a little bit of time that we're going to be spending together. And so it's always good to know who's speaking to who. Yes, I run MUHSEN, as the executive director and co-founder. And yes, I'm a mother of a young adult who has a disability. But at the same time, I'm a working professional. I am someone who really values time, and I want to have impact on each and every person that took the time to be on this webinar today and who will listen to the recording. I want to make sure that I understand, and this is hard to do, I know, on a Zoom, but I don't know if we can, and Lisa, I can't see everybody, but maybe we can do, and you can feel free to unmute if you'd like, but if anyone wants to introduce themselves or say who they are, or what, if they're with an organization, what they do, that would be great, because it'll just give me a feel as to who we're talking to today. Is anyone brave enough to unmute and speak? I'm opening it up to you. Anyone want to say salam?
Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah. My name is Shala. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Joohi and Sister Lisa and everyone here. I'm in Windsor, Ontario, and I'm representing Islamic Society Windsor, and I'm a special needs facilitator with MUHSEN as a volunteer. I'm happy to.
Mashallah. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome, salam, Shala. Thanks for joining today. Anyone else?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Sabah here from ICNA Valley, USA programs. Our main office is located in California and Fullerton, and I'm dealing with the refugee department. I'm working as a coordinator, refugee services and resettlement program. This is my second meeting with Lisa. and I'm second time joining AMCF, and I want like we continue this relationship with you guys, and then bring something more good in our nonprofit as well. We have 6 programs in which we have free health clinic services, free Christian counseling services, which is very important nowadays for mental wellness. And we have due over big conference, second mental wellness conference on 2nd May. And we have refugee resettlement program, hunger prevention, and a lot more. So we open like how we together we can help the community, we can serve the community better.
Jazakallah khair, Sabah. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm hearing people that are working in the nonprofit sector, it seems like. I see Muhi. Salam, Muhi.
Hey, walaikum assalam, everyone. Thank you, Lisa, for putting this event together, Joohi for being here. When I saw it happen, it was super exciting and just a wonderful topic. So I'll pop in and out, but I'm excited to learn. I think there's so much more that AMCF can do as an institution to be accessible, and I'm so glad we have an interpreter here. So thank you to MUHSEN for providing that service and for all the fantastic work that you're doing, Joohi.
And for those of you who don't know, Muhi is the AMCF co-founder as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, Muhi.
Thank you. And thank you, Muhi, for your support always. And it's a funny joke, but we have a mutual friend years and years and years ago who said, oh, I've always wanted to say this, but Joohi, meet Muhi. And that's how it all began. Anyway, okay. I won't spend more time. If anybody else wants to share, please feel free. Otherwise, I'll dive right into what we're here to talk about. Anyone else?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm based in Brantford, Ontario. I've been working with kids with special needs. I currently work at the YMCA as a facilitator. And I actually just became the Eastern Regional Lead for MUHSEN, and I'm looking forward to just learning more and more as we go along. And thank you for having me.
Excellent. Nice to hear from you, Sean. Welcome to the team. Welcome to Team MUHSEN. We are actually, guys, we're, expanding into Canada. And so we've been a little bit more active in the western part of Canada, but now, mashallah, MUHSEN has spread to the eastern part of Canada, and Sean is going to be very instrumental there. So, mashallah. Okay, wonderful, Lisa. Why don't we dive into the next slide if we can? And I'm just going to share a little bit. I can assume that, people know what MUHSEN does, but essentially, we are a nonprofit. And for me, that's still strange because I come from a very mainstream corporate background, but over the years have realized that this is where the meaningful work exists in the community. And so many of you are doing meaningful work. So as I say that, we're advocating essentially for people with intellectual, mental, physical disabilities, not just children. A lot of people think MUHSEN's mission is all about kids. It's not. It's for children as well as adults and their families, those around them. We do community advocacy. So it's like the 3 A's, I call it: awareness, accommodation, and acceptance. And without reading all the words that are on the screen, essentially, we realized many years ago that there was a lack of awareness in the Muslim community about people living with disabilities. I would say to my masjid leaders, I would say to scholars and speakers that I would meet, like I was just this little old mom saying, look, do you know that people with disabilities are in your community and we're not doing anything for them? We're not including them, my own family included. And so the awareness piece was essential. When I had the privilege of going to Hajj with Sheikh Omar Suleiman, and that's where the story really began and where we met on the plains of Mina in the desert, and I started talking about my daughter, I think one of the things that he and I agreed was, number one, there's a lack of awareness. But if we do anything about this, which is basically what I was doing, was I was pleading with him, like, I have so many ideas and our family cannot be the only family. Can we do something? Then when we really sat down to form the organization, we felt it had to go beyond awareness. You have to walk the talk in any of our missions. We can have wonderful mission statements and we can have great goals on paper, but we have to walk the talk. And that's what's so important. And I stress that, we had to survey, we had to find out from people, and you'll see some of the survey and some of the research that we've done that informs a lot of our decisions. And then we put accommodations into the community, and then we hope and pray and have seen in the last 10 years that the awareness followed by the accommodations that we put in does lead to acceptance eventually, inshallah, in all communities that we work with. And the vision is simple: Muslim communities where individuals with disabilities and their families are welcomed, supported, and included across the span of their lifetime. Does that mean that we do everything in the disability bucket? No. It means that our primary goal is bringing these people back into the community. Does that mean that I can take on special education law cases? No, I can be an advocate, but I can point you in the direction. Does that mean MUHSEN can take the place of government services and Medicaid? No, but we crystal clear that we will work to support. But I think it's important that, you know, we make that distinction as to where we spend the bulk of our work. So we can jump down to the next slide with some of the statistics. And one of the things is, you know, again, it seems really, really basic to say what's a disability, but it's a term that limits your daily functions and activities, right? If somebody has challenges with their daily functioning, they are classified as disabled. And it can be, like I said, it can be physical, it can be mental. It'll substantially limit or affect the way some major life activity is performed. And running to the next slide, I want to really be clear that we have different types of disabilities, right? Physical, there are sensory disabilities, there are developmental, there are actually mental health challenges are classified as disabilities. Think about one thing. If somebody has severe anxiety or depression, it can be debilitating. It can impact your daily function. And I bring this up as we are in Mental Health Awareness Month for sure. And one of those things that we need to think about is a disability, and Lisa and I, you know, had this exchange. A disability is not always visible. You can't always see, you know, people always, oh yeah, the wheelchair, oh yeah, we got the parking spot. And no, it's not just that. If you know, in some instances, look at an individual with autism. And again, you know, my daughter has autism. If you look at an individual with autism, or why don't you just take a look at that picture that is a picture of a girl writing on a doodle pad under the word sensory. Can you tell that the girl in the pale yellow sweatshirt has a disability? You cannot tell by looking at her. She has a disability, but it's a cognitive and sensory disability. So it's not apparent to us exactly what the disability is. And that goes for, and again, I'm trying to tailor to the audience here. If you are working in a service, you know, environment, or if you're working in a nonprofit environment, if you're an organization that puts on events, if you're an organization that does case management, you need to be aware that these people can cross your path. These people exist in the Muslim community. I'm going to jump to the next slide, Lisa. And essentially the statistic is, and this is from the CDC, so this is an American statistic. It is not Canada, guys. Whoever's on from Canada, that's a different number. Today, there are more than 61 million Americans living with a disability. These numbers get updated regularly, but this is pretty recent. 26% of the population, 1 in 4 adults, is living with a disability. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, of the people, how many people do we have on right now? 15, 16? I don't know. I can't even tell. Something like that. That there's a handful of people here living with a disability who are on this webinar. Okay. And you say, well, does that really make sense? Yeah, it really makes sense because, like I said, some of them are hidden. Some of them are socio-emotional. Some of them are, you know, things that we have learned to compensate for and may not be as apparent. And that is a fact. That is a fact. What I'd like to share with you next on the next slide, and again, I'm not monitoring the chat, so if there are questions that need me to halt or stop, Lisa, just jump in and tell me, otherwise we can hold till the end. This statistic is a statistic that I am going to give you kind of a caveat around. When I started this work, I started to look and do a lot of research on the ground, obviously, and say, you know, how do I get my arms around how many people we're really talking about here? And back then, the FYI, the Family Youth Institute, and ISNA had done some work together, two very reputable organizations. And they had given this number that over 600,000 Muslims were living with disabilities that they knew. I can tell you this number is not accurate today, but I do not have an update to the number. It is far more than that. That's more than 500,000 people, folks. That's a lot of people in our Muslim community. We're not immune being Muslim. And I did add some stats at the bottom so that you know in terms of our very typical, like you hear about some of these disabilities more from like the childhood perspective. 1 in 36 children have a form of autism. 1 in 345 individuals have cerebral palsy. 1 in 700 births they're a Down syndrome birth. And these are staggering statistics. The prevalence keeps increasing. When I started this work, the autism statistic was 1 in 200 and something. It is now 1 in 36. It's everywhere. And the reason I put this up there is because I want people to understand that this is not just a few people. This is not a small segment. This is a large part of our Muslim community. I want to show you on the map on the next slide. We have kind of call it a registry. We have families that register with MUHSEN. They become a part of our formal family registry. The number, again, every time I give these types of presentations, we have to keep updating. The number is well over 2,000 registered. There's probably 2,500 plus, close to 3,000 families with MUHSEN. These are people we know of who've identified, who've registered. That doesn't mean that that's everybody. There's obviously a lot of people who don't choose to take the survey and tell us. What I want you to see is that, so the navy blue clusters are the families or individuals. They represent clusters. The orange pins would represent like major masajid in the area. The turquoise pins represent the different MUHSEN regional chapters that we run. So it's important to note that, again, I can't keep up with this map either because there are definitely, there's movement on here on a daily basis, but it's widespread. It's where you would expect it. It's in the very Muslim-centric cities across our country. We absolutely have work to do. Why do we have no pins in Montana? Well, people have not come to MUHSEN from Montana and identified themselves. Does that mean there are no Muslims living there with disabilities? Absolutely not. Is there a lot of opportunity there? Absolutely, there's a lot of opportunity there, and so on and so forth. And so this is just to give you an idea of how widespread, people are basically coming out of the woodworks. And before MUHSEN existed, actually, there was no place for them. Yes, Muhi has a question.
More a comment. I love this information, and something that we have in our AMCF presentation is demographics on Muslims, where Islam is the second largest religion in that state. So you may want to overlay that with this and just ping me offline and I'll share what states those are. And maybe you can highlight them a different color or something. And I think that would be a really interesting overlap.
Great point. Yes. And coming from like my previous life where, I was like in the world of marketing. I used to do presentations about even before I, came over to the nonprofit world. And Pew Research is something that everybody uses, right? And so, when I started doing some research for MUHSEN, yeah, I mean, it does. New York, California, Chicago, Texas, like some of these states where you see the high prevalence of Muslims is where you're going to see the highest prevalence of our families too. So I think it's very, very important. Thank you for that. So the next slide is kind of a little bit of where our research dug in. And it's not heavy duty research, but I do want to share some of these things. We asked people who signed up with MUHSEN, who took our needs assessment survey. And remember, this organization is not the world according to Joohi Tahir or Umar Suleiman. This organization is grassroots. And what we did was we wanted to ask people. We wanted to build an organization that would address the concerns that people have. And so we asked, one of the questions we asked, because we're all about inclusion, how accessible is your masjid or your community? And repeatedly, on average, we get these answers. A family member's acceptance basically is what, we asked about. Family member's acceptance into the community was 6.5 out of 10. A family member's accessibility into masjid events was 5.5 out of 10. Guys, 55%, 65%. Are those good scores? No. Not at all. Not at all. Very, very, very poor scores. And it's very sad because, again, the core principles of Islam, the sunnah of our beloved Prophet, ﷺ, all about inclusion, all about trying to want for your brother what you have for yourself. I mean, think about it, right? That was my big plea at the onset, at the very start of this organization was 2 of my girls get to go to Sunday school. One of them doesn't. I have 3 daughters, mashallah. One of them doesn't have a place. She doesn't have someone who can teach her. Why is that? Why are we okay with that? And I mean, that's just one small example. My brothers and sisters who are deaf, why is it that they don't have access to the khutbah on Friday? How come we're okay with filling our mosques and not even worrying about what about the people that are sitting at home? What about the folks that cannot access this information? Is it not a communal fard that we provide this service or support? And it's very simple. It's very simple. It's just I think people didn't think about it. So we'll jump to the next slide. And we essentially, more of our research pointed to what did people really need? And so, some of the top things were requested and Muhi, here's kind of some of that, the top states where the responses came in and where we have people, Texas, Illinois, and California. The top supports were people wanted access to programs across the board in every state. What does that mean? I'm sitting at home. Remember now, I'm a mom and I have a daughter who has autism. And I see this program that's going to be happening at my mosque. And this is something I think a lot of people can relate to. There's a program happening at the mosque, but my child at the time, who was a young child, she's now, mashallah, a grown adult, she would not be able to attend that event. She would probably not be able to sit still and focus and listen long enough to the speaker, but she would need a space, perhaps a room, a care room on the side with just a loving volunteer who would be able to sit with her, maybe help keep her calm, help keep her busy, maybe do a little bit of drawing. Maybe the person could sit and engage with her on an activity, just for a short amount of time for mom to be able to go to the mosque and to be able to listen and to be able to benefit from the speaker who comes to the program. That's what we hear day in and day out. Can we have a space? And people say, oh yeah, babysitting provided. Has anyone been in a babysitting room at a masjid event? Doesn't work for all of us. It does not work for some people with disabilities. I'm not saying that across the board. There are people that can be, completely included, in those settings. But if you ever come to a MUHSEN event, you will see, for example, I'll give an example. We have a fundraising dinner every other year. And at that fundraising gala, we have a child care room for typical children, what we call neurotypical. Then we have a MUHSEN care room for individuals, children, all the way up to adults who cannot be in the same room as these neurotypical children. We are not trying to cast a separation between them. We are simply doing what is going to suit their needs. It becomes very overwhelming, very loud, a huge sensory overload for some individuals who cannot handle like a big crowd. So we have a smaller setting, a quieter setting, more one-to-one volunteers assisting. So that's what families are telling us when they say they want access to programs and classes. And again, that's one example with childcare options. The other thing is they wanted an open house for special needs families, the little bubble, the gray bubble. What does that mean? They want to meet other people just like themselves. I don't have much in common with the general community at large. I'm going to say it. I have a lot in common with people who have families like mine. And so that's why it became so important to listen to the voices of the community. Weekend school options, like I told you. How many families are turned away from Sunday school? It's appalling. And now masajid and Islamic schools don't need to say, sorry, we can't cater to your child. They can say, oh, let's call MUHSEN and see what supports can be put in. Let's see if we can have a MUHSEN class. And so these are some of the things I wanted to share with our research. So I'd like to jump down as I'm keeping an eye on the time. Our needs survey report, lots of information on the next slide here. It's basically, I want to alert you to the types of disabilities that we see across the board. I've mentioned autism a lot because there's a high prevalence of it. So this again, these are stats from, early 2024. So the numbers have changed, obviously. Autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, different types of development delay. You know, there are various types of disabilities listed here, but just know that it runs the gamut. We have people who have all different disabilities. Even in physical mobility types of disabilities, there are several. There's muscular dystrophy, there's cerebral palsy, there's MS, there is multiple sclerosis. There are different kinds of disabilities. So we can jump down to the next slide. Just some fast facts. These are survey facts specific to the MUHSEN survey. These are not across the board in America. Of the respondents to the MUHSEN survey, 44% of people living with disabilities who responded responded that they're under the age of 18. That's correlated with how young the Muslim community is, number one. We have young families. We have lots of people who have, children. The people who took the time to take the MUHSEN survey, 44% said they have someone with a disability living under the age of 18. There goes the myth that, oh, this is only for old people. This is only for people in wheelchairs, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted everyone to kind of get a feel for, what that looks like. And we cater a lot of programs to children, but we got to a point where we realized that we're not just catering to children. We're catering to the whole family, and we're catering to adults and their growing needs. Like I mentioned at the start of this, my daughter, when I started MUHSEN with Sheikh Omar, was much younger. She was in school. Now she's transitioned out of middle school and high school and through a transition program and an adult program. Now she's a full-fledged adult in her mid-20s, mashallah. So the needs change through the lifespan of someone living with a disability. And we've acknowledged that, and we're trying now very carefully to build programs like adult programs across the country. We can go to the next slide. And essentially what came out of all of this research, it was the tools for what we want to do and what we want MUHSEN to be. Number one is respect for individuals and families. These are people who have been ignored. These are people who have been mistreated. And as an advocate, I can say very, very loud and clear that has the tide shifted? Yes, alhamdulillah. And I can say that MUHSEN has been a part of that. Of course, there are many factors, but MUHSEN has been a part of that. Better education has been a part of that, and advocacy. But there's still a huge need across the nation and North Canada and even around Muslim communities in the world that we talk to, where this needs to be emphasized. I cannot emphasize it enough. Families and individuals with special needs are no less. We need awareness through talks and workshops like we're having today. We need physical accessibility, and that's like a beautiful wudu station in that photo that some masjids actually have, where someone in a wheelchair can just roll right up. They don't even have to get out, or they cannot actually at times get out of their wheelchair. So how to address the foot washing, how to address access to the water source, those types of things we help with. And access to Quran. And what do I mean? I don't just mean Braille Quran, because yes, that is a request, and we send them out every time we get requested a copy of the Braille Quran, but also access to large print. There are some people that have vision, but low vision, and they want a large print, and we do provide those also. And then the next slide will share a few more of kind of what came out of our research, and that would be sign language services, which you are seeing live today, at various places, online events, and it became very important for us during COVID, as well as in the space of like conventions, and even all the way to Umrah. We have, sign language interpreters that go with us, mashallah. Again, including that segment of the population that needs that service. Captioning services, for those of you that are big fans of Yaqeen Institute and the work that they do, mashallah, which is incredible. All of their captioning is done by MUHSEN. Why do they have captioning? Because there are people all over the place that watch their videos and they need captioning service. So the Ramadan series that we know and love that you see is painstakingly captioned by MUHSEN, by Team MUHSEN. And we've done a series for Sheikh Yasser Qadi. We did for him. We've done various other, events, and captioning is very important. And you can say, oh, AI is here. AI is going to take over all of that. You don't need MUHSEN captioning. Well, guess what? AI can't always get the correct ayah of the Quran that's being recited. There are always mistakes in things that need to be, the human eye needs to correct, right? And when we're dealing with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot take a chance. And so we are very, very particular about accuracy. Support groups, caregiver support groups, even support groups for siblings of people with disabilities. Weekend schools we talked about with a very specific curriculum where we know that we can, go ahead and teach people in a very different way. And that's why weekend school is so important. And caregiving and respite, you'll see at very large conventions, the ICNA convention this weekend coming up in Baltimore. There'll be a Mohsen Care Suite. We have, dozens of families signed up to bring their loved ones to the Mohsen Care Suite, where there's going to be dedicated, trained, background checked professional, proper volunteers who can, take care of people like that. So that's kind of in a nutshell some of our services. I want to jump down and I just want to take it back to the community now and where we are as organizers, right? Just remember one thing. We are a community where we have lots of committees on everything, right? So if you're in a masjid, you have a committee for zakat. You have a committee for marital counseling, like family support services. You have a food collection committee. You have a health committee. You have voter registration and civic engagement committees. You obviously have education. You have something usually for the elderly. There's always youth. There's always youth programming and youth committees. So very important. Dawah committee for new Muslims and interfaith. And these things are extremely important. We need them all. These are all following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But what's missing, guys? Special needs services. We just said it's 1 in 4 people living in this country. So where are the special needs services? That just doesn't make any sense that you're not going to have a committee dedicated. That's where MUHSEN came in. And that's when MUHSEN said, this is something we need, and it's something that we need to pay attention to. And therefore, we'll be that special needs services arm. You just need to open the door for us, and we'll come in and we'll do all the work. Okay. Jumping to the next slide, and I am going to give a little bit of time for us to have some discussion. I think we're at 12:40. This is one of our beautiful participants. I won't share his name, but he went to Umrah with us. And this is Dr. Wali Khan, one of our tried and true Muslim volunteers. This is in Masjid Quba in Medina. This individual went to Medina with us. He went to Umrah with us. Someone might say, is it really required for him to go on an Umrah trip? No. Is it required for you to go to Umrah? No. Is it required for me to go to Umrah? No. It's not a fard. Is it our right to worship in the house of Allah wherever we want? Yes. Did the Prophet ﷺ say make space for people like this? Yes. And that's precisely what we're doing, is just reviving that sunnah. And so as we educate, we say that it's important to see the individual and not the disability. We use something called person first language. It's always about the person first and the label later. These people are no less Muslim and they're no less deserving, right? And I'm stating things that should be very obvious, but it's a very, very sad statement, but it's not very obvious. I've been told, sister, it's not fard for them to come here. Sister, I'm telling you, it's not fard for them to be here. And it's a very uphill battle sometimes when you have that mindset, especially with the leadership. So sometimes people with disabilities, and I want to make this point because I teach young children this way. If someone who has a cognitive disability remains in a very innocent state all of their life, our teachers have taught us that Allah lifts the pen for people like that. What does that mean? They're sinless. So if they do things and they say, for example, they don't pray. If my daughter misses a salah, is she accountable for that? Because she has a cognitive disability where she does not have the rationing and the understanding of what's absolutely required of her. She doesn't have the cognitive ability, and I can say that with confidence. This doesn't apply to everyone with disability, by the way, and I want to be very clear. There are several hadith that tell us that if there's someone who can escort a blind man to the masjid, it's required when he hears the adhan to go. But it's also, examples have been given where there are people who the pen has been lifted for. So in the case of someone who is considered sinless or not accountable, shouldn't we be supporting them? Aren't these people, according to our scholars and our teachers, inshallah, going to be the people of Jannah? They've, gone through a test in life, and at the end of it all, Allah has promised, you patiently persevere, and I will reward you with Jannah. And so these are people that MUHSEN supports. These are people that MUHSEN helps. These are people that MUHSEN facilitates for. And these struggles, in fact, bring families closer and closer to Allah. And so that's something I wanted to stress here that was so important. And the next few slides, Lisa, we're going to go through very quickly because I do want to open the floor. I just want to mention that we have a masjid certification program. A lot of you here are not with a masjid. We can go to the next slide. All it does is it provides, a way for a masjid to get involved. We require a facilitator to be there, meaning just a point person. It can be someone on the board. It can be a volunteer in the masjid. And we would put something like a needs survey online. That's how you basically get started in a community. After that, and we'll jump to the next few slides, there are services, and I'd be more than happy to share this, and also we can, talk offline if you're interested in getting your community, MUHSEN certified. We do, the accessibility. We basically do an audit and we come through and we take a look. Physical accessibility. You can go to the next slide. We do khutbahs and disability awareness events. And these are all services that MUHSEN will come in and do. We're not expecting the masjid to do it alone. And we provide discussion topics and whatnot. On the next slide, we talked a lot about accessibility ABCs, the ASL, the Braille Qurans, the closed captioning. These are very easy things that people can put into their organizations even. If you are an organization that puts out media or videos, or you have talks, you can easily get an ASL interpreter. Just contact us, and we do it for a lot of organizations. If you're an organization that provides like videos, at your next, event or release of a video, ask MUHSEN to close caption it. We'll do it for you. It takes no time. It's no problem. Support groups. Many communities don't know the first thing about supporting these people. So we go ahead and we, and I think it's on the next slide, we go ahead and we'll provide support groups, and we only do them with licensed counselors. So for example, if there's a caregiver or a mom's support group for people with disabilities, we would actually not just say, okay, like get together, have some coffee and just talk. That would be irresponsible of us. We provide a licensed mental health counselor to run and facilitate the support group. There are a lot of things said, there are a lot of discussions, there are a lot of emotions around this subject. So we want to be responsible and make sure that there's someone there that can handle that type of discussion. And so that's the way MUHSEN support groups are run. And there are confidentiality waivers and disclaimers and things that are signed before we do something like this. And then the very next slide, programs and events. All of us are involved in event planning. Lisa was involved in putting this event together, and she said, let's make it accessible by having a sign language interpreter. And we really appreciate that. And that's a role model organization at AMCF for you, because what they're doing is they're encouraging others. People don't realize how easy it is to put a request in online and get an interpreter. We schedule it and we get it done. We just ask for a little bit of advance notice. We can give guidelines or blueprint for an event. I have been to events, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, where you can't see the door because we've jammed in so many people into that event. We've got 500 people in a banquet hall that should hold 300, and there's no clear path out. Allah protect us. What if there's a fire? And what if I'm in a wheelchair? Everyone's running, jumping over chairs, trying to get out the door. Where am I left? What am I going to do? So that's where we come in and we provide a blueprint to, like a better planned event. If you've attended one of our larger MUHSEN events say in a banquet hall, our aisles are wider. We actually ask when we do a floor plan to have a wider aisle, not only to accommodate people with disabilities in a wheelchair, but to accommodate people who are not in a wheelchair, who just need a little bit of space to move around. We don't want to ever be in that situation where the doors are blocked, there's no fire escape, and you have a huge problem. And I think about this all the time, in this day and age, we live in a country where there's gun violence, and we're in schools and things like this happen. What happens to the special needs room? What happens when everyone's told, run, 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 and the cops are calling, jump through the window, get out? It keeps me up at night. So put yourself in the place of individuals living with disabilities. If there's anything I can ask that we've learned through this, and we'll open the floor in a moment, is empathy. Empathy for those who are living in a way that's slightly different than yourself. What I feel like, doing this work, and people will criticize, well, you don't have a disability. I don't have a disability that you know of. I don't have a visible disability. However, I've been around enough of our community population who feel very, very confident and comfortable in me sharing that I have seen a lot and heard a lot. And what that means is it makes your heart soft and it makes you empathetic to those who have these challenges. And then when there's, one of the bullets on there, when there's an Eid festival or an Eid carnival at your masjid, can some accommodations be put in so that 25% of the population can attend who are not being catered to, so that your neighbor's child, just like your child, can come to an event and be accommodated for and enjoy it? Can we train our youth? Can we get our youth into workshops to understand, because they are the future of this community? I think these are some of the things we all should be kind of talking about. And again, to skip to the next couple of slides, again, just listing more and more services that we do. Weekend schools, we talked about respite care, having trained volunteers. The next slide, essentially masjid certification, and this can apply to organizations and the like. We work with several. We've certified people like ISPU, because we've certified people like Rabata. These are organizations, they're not necessarily masjids, but they made the effort to be able to, reach out to us and say, what can we do? Do they have to have every badge here on the checklist, the accessibility, and they have to have the khutbahs, and they have to have, the braille, and they have to have the respite care? No, it's not that hard and fast. It's making some attempt towards some of this stuff. And the last slide before we break for Q&A is, none of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And this is a Sahih hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, who is our role model and our guide to everything we do. And don't just look at these words and say, yeah, I've heard that hadith before, but really let's internalize them. How many times have we thought that somebody else deserves what I have right now? I went to Umrah and said, how many people deserve this opportunity with their family that I have had with my daughter? How many times do we put ourselves outside ourselves and say, this is something that we can do and we can be a part of? And that's really the whole presentation, the formal angle of the presentation. I'm sorry I spoke nonstop. I didn't even think that I would speak for this long, but inshallah, I would love to see everyone on the grid. I would love to open the floor for questions. And I apologize if I went fast, or if hopefully that was okay. And Bilqis, thank you for keeping up with me on the talk here, and I appreciate you being here. Do we want to jump in, Lisa? If you
Yeah,
want
so
to,
there were several comments, questions on the chat.
okay.
A couple of them I think you can perhaps easily address. People want to know, like, how do they reach out? How do they connect with Muhsen? A couple of people mentioned some difficulty in getting to the right person, right place. So if you can drop a link or tell, if you're in your area and you want to find a Muhsen representative or start a chapter, like, how do you do that? That would be a great link, as well as I think a couple of people like, um, for your mosque or your organization, who do you contact? Do you have a review of your website or your organization, either virtual or in person? As well as a very important point, I think it was by Ismail, like money is an issue. Many masajid and mortgage organizations, funding is not there. So are there any suggestions or resources that Mohsen can share in order to raise funds or highlight the importance of those funds that are there? Thank you. So
Can I answer? I'll answer a couple of things. You can start emailing at info@muhsen.org. And I know that sounds like a black hole. There are several different staff members and divisions. So if you're looking for respite care, there's a respite volunteer person that gets funneled to. If you're looking for weekend school, we have a school national coordinator, and it goes to her email, and so on and so forth. What I would suggest you do is give 24 to 48 hours for a turnaround response. And mashallah, they have gotten a lot better. You can only imagine the demand and the growth, and operating in hundreds of communities around the country. It's not an excuse, but certainly that's one place to start, is sending us an email. The other thing I can suggest you do is, when you visit the website, which I think I just put in there, when you visit the website, it's where we are. There's a tab called Where We Are, and that'll show you the different regions where we are located. I know we have one of our regional folks, our staff member, Joohi Tahir, is on the call, and she is from Dallas. And so, for example, specifically for Dallas related stuff, there is an email you'll see that'll say dallas@muhsen.org. So you'll get to a specific person, and I'm calling out Ruhi, and she's on the call, but essentially all things Dallas related will go directly to her. So you can go to the muhsen.org website and you can pop in there and look at the tabs, and where we are in the regions will show up for you there. As regards to the comment about money, Muhsen does not charge fees to certify a masjid. Yes, we do not charge fees to certify a masjid. Now, if you want to run an event, for example, and you want to do something, can you ask for supplies and things like that if you're working with Muhsen? Absolutely. We will send you what it takes. If a masjid says, you know, a one-off, we have a fundraising event or a big speech coming up, and we want an ASL interpreter, Muhsen will not charge you for that. We take the brunt of the cost of doing this work. We never wanted it to be a barrier for entry. We are a 501c3 nonprofit charity. The donations that come in go back out and they're spent in the community. So money should never be an issue. If you're thinking, oh, my masjid will never go for this because they can't afford it, you need to be wise to know that people need to be identified to help on the ground doing this work. And that too, we train volunteers. So it's not about like a heavy burden budget line item that we're talking about here at all. So hopefully I cleared that up. Anything else?
I think the brother was, in terms of like things might be needed at the mosque to make it more accessible. The money for those things, I believe, is what the brother was kind of getting at.
So physical accessibility, if you're ADA compliant in your mosque, which you wouldn't have an occupancy permit if you weren't, physical compliance you have. I don't go in and re-renovate bathrooms. In fact, and I'll give an example, and that's a valid concern. I was in a masjid in Chino Valley, California.
Oh, that's
And
my mosque.
no way. Okay, so I was there many years ago, and I went and I looked at their bathroom. They said, Sister Joohi, what are we going to have to do here? I said, oh my gosh, let me tell you what you're going to have to do. I sent him a link. He was the board, I think he was probably the treasurer at the time. I sent him the link, and it was a $29 Amazon link to a handheld water sprayer. And I said, attach this. How do you attach this? It's 29 bucks. You can bill Muhsen, no problem, or I can order it for you and I can have it sent. And what the sprayer does is it essentially brings the water from the wall out. So someone pulls up in a wheelchair, there's already a drain there. All they would need to do is wash their feet right there. I did not redesign their bathroom. I did not ask them to remodel their wudu stations. That's all it took. But we know those little tips and tricks, right? Google offices on the East Coast, there was a Muslim group of employees at Google, and they wanted to talk about wudu accessibility. They consulted with us, we talked to them, and we gave them similar solutions. So just so that you know, there's a lot that's possible. Just reach out and we'll help wherever we can.
Perhaps on that note, is there a checklist or perhaps that you can provide or email me and I can send out? Like these are, I guess, the quick and easy ways to make things accessible that might be helpful for certain organizations.
Absolutely. Yes, I will do that. Yes. And it's all on our website, but I'll certainly send it, Lisa, to you. No problem.
And then Saba is mentioning in the chat that she wants to connect for we both live in SoCal. So how to connect for the SoCal person.
Okay, yeah, SoCal at muhsen.org, and her name is Sister Hira. So SoCal at Muhsen, I'm going to give you that. She is our lead and does incredible work down there. SoCal at muhsen.org, and let her know that you attended this and you would like to get in touch. Mashallah, a lot of families down there are receiving a lot of support and having some great activities down there. We work a lot with IOK, we work a lot with IIOC, and several others. So,
And we just a couple minutes
So,
left. Yeah.
I have one more question here. So for the one region, you have only one person, not like many people can connect for the same region, no?
are you talking about on the website, the regional lead?
On the website, I saw like one regional lead from Southern California, but this is like only one lead, or you need like many more people to be connected as a regional lead, or not?
No, we actually have one lead per region, and then they have a team who works with them.
Okay.
They have people that manage volunteers. They have people that manage the events. They have people that, support. So the regional
Okay.
lead is the main contact, the main point person. But
Okay.
then
I
beyond
got it.
that, you can volunteer in that area. They're always, it's definitely a full team approach. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And I hope this has been beneficial. Lisa, I hope this is what you all were hoping to, achieve. It's just the beginning of the conversation. Like I said, feel free to reach out to MUHSEN. Feel free to absolutely go through the website. There's really something that impacts everyone. And I'm just going to leave you with this thought. And you may have heard me say it before. Disability is the largest minority group that we can all become a part of at any time in our life. Disability is the largest minority group that we can all become a part of at any time in our life. What do I mean by that? I mean that it can be by birth, it can be by injury, it can be by an illness, it can be by onset by old age, and it can be for a reason we don't even know. So we're not immune to it, and it can impact everyone. So we as a community need to stop thinking us and them. It's them, it's not us, because it can be us. And may Allah protect every single one of us and our families from any trials that we are not able to persevere through, and make life easy, and make us a more compassionate, empathetic community, inshallah. I mean, but again, that's what I had for today. But Jazakallah khair to you, Lisa, and to Muhi, and to AMCF. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you, and it was so nice to have everybody on today. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our interpreter, Bilquis. We really appreciate your hard work today. I know we kept your fingers flying, so thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
So if there's no final question, I'll give a few seconds and then we'll be closing this. So thank you. All right.